Good morning. George Hepworth, Grover Park Consulting. In this set of videos, and I predict about 3, possibly 4 videos to cover all the ground that I want to cover, I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a PowerApps application that works as an extension of an existing Access desktop application. What we do is extend a small subset of the functionality in that Access database into the mobile environment, specifically onto a smartphone, so that one function which works well in a mobile environment can be implemented for that phone. In this case, what we're talking about is a shopping list, and I use this shopping list to identify the things that I need to buy when I go to the store next time. And there's a whole story that goes behind it. But to get you oriented to where we are, let's just start with the relevant pieces for our PowerApps Access hybrid app. In the Access PC, there are two functions that are relevant to working in the desktop environment. First, we need to identify the data that we want to capture. That's basically what a relational database application does. Access is very, very good at collecting that data, analyzing and reporting on the data. That's what we refer to often as the rich application possible with a desktop application. However, there is an aspect of that process which is better suited to a mobile device, and that is, once you know what data you want to collect, you have to go get it. Now, in a traditional environment, that would be going and asking people what they do in their job, writing down what they do, coming back, sitting down at your desk, and writing up a description narrative that can be turned into tables, for example. That would be the starting point. But then there's the process of gathering that data. That comes in the form of a spreadsheet with records. That comes in the form of paper invoices that are gathered in a stack on the desk and copied into the database. All kinds of procedures that we have evolved over time to take that data from where it is, bring it to the computer, enter it there. And that, you can think of dozens of ways to do that, I'm sure. What I propose to do with a hybrid application, and what I propose that we think of in terms of how our efforts can be leveraged, is that instead of bringing the data to the desktop, we provide a way for certain people who have certain jobs to take their input device with them to where the data lives. You do not bring the data back, you go and locate it, and you enter the data there. So the flow is from the time you say, this is what I need, to where you find it, enter it, and bring it back for analysis. This part is done on the mobile device, the remote device, and that involves this small section of the overall workflow. And in addition to my shopping list, I think there are some other typical use cases, I should say, where this kind of approach could work. A physical warehouse inventory. You send someone with a barcode scanner, and the phone has its own barcode scanner, into the warehouse, and they start scanning the barcode labels on shelves to get information about what products are physically there, rather than sending someone out with a clipboard and a piece of paper to check it off. And you see this all the time in grocery stores, for example, where you have the inventory taker sitting down in front of a shelf and scanning the items on the shelf. That's what they're doing. They're implementing this mobile data location, data entry. Sometimes when I walk down the street on my daily walks, I go by a repair shop, an automobile repair shop, and I see the technicians, or their sales reps probably, out in the parking lot with a clipboard and a piece of paper and a pen, checking off, this bumper needs to be replaced, we need paint this, these lights are broken, so on. They have to take that data from where they've collected it back inside the shop, sit down in front of their desktop computer, and copy it a second time into the computer. I'm aware of an application, I've seen demo of this, where large construction project is completed, ready to go on sale. All these homes, say 20, 30, 40 new homes ready to sell. You do the final pre-sale inspection, and someone takes their, again, clipboard and paper, walks through and checks off on the punch list. That's what they call a punch list. All the items in each home that need to be addressed before they're ready to sell. Again, data collection could be done just as well through a smart device in all three of those environments. Bid estimate for appliance repair. Recently had an occasion to have an appliance replaced, and the rep who was sent to my unit here at my condo wrote all the numbers down on a piece of paper, copied them into his phone, sent that off to the office, came back. He could just as easily have entered the numbers directly through the phone in the first place, but that struck me as an example of where implementing a mobile data input process speeds things up. In my case, it is the shopping list, the grocery shopping, the other kinds of daily household shopping that I do, and gasoline. I also include gas for my car. And I'd have this set up in two parts. There's the original shopping list that I work from, and the shopping cart where I fulfill that. And in all of these cases, with a smart device like a phone, you have the ability to take pictures as you go. So that's what I mean by a hybrid application that extends mobile functions to where they belong on a mobile device. Let's see how this works in the application. Let's start with the access side. It began almost 5 years ago now, when I was standing in the store looking at a container of abuelita. If you know what abuelita is, you will agree with me that it makes the best hot chocolate, bar none. Better than store brand, better than brand names. However, it's also a little more expensive than most other brands, and I was trying to decide whether I could afford it or not, and then it occurred to me that maybe I could drive down the street to Walmart and get it for a better price. Walmart is famous for lower prices. The problem is the Safeway, where I shop most of the time, is about a half a mile from my house. The Walmart, the closest Walmart, would be closer to 6 miles away. So I'm looking at this thinking, would it be worthwhile to drive that extra 5.5, 6 miles to save a few pennies, and how much would I save? And would it be worthwhile to do that? And that's how this came to be. As you can see, it's about, at that point, was about 30 cents an ounce difference. And that, to me, was enough to make it worthwhile to go there if the cost of gas and my time and the convenience was also part of the calculation, and it came out that it made sense to do that. I wouldn't go there for just one container of hot chocolate, but maybe if I was going to spend $20 or $30, it might be worthwhile. So that's how this all came to be. Show you a couple of other items. Over time, as I continued to use this, I built up a pretty good history, and I can see not just comparison of store to store, vendor to vendor, but also over time, I was able to do some data analysis. And remember, I started off by saying the Access application, the Access database application, supports this kind of analysis. So I can see that over time, I've spent as little as 8 cents an egg and as much as 28 cents an egg through the same store. The last cost was 28 cents. A few weeks ago, prices continue to go up. The average over 5 years has been 18 cents each. And as you can see, it's not just the comparison between the two stores. In this case, it was at Albertsons rather than Walmart. But you can see that over time, prices have changed. So that was an additional piece of information that I hadn't really got from the original plan, which was to compare two vendors. One more example, just to round out the picture. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do glucose. Glucosamine. This is a supplement that I take for joint pain, and it really works for arthritic knees. But as you can see, different stores sell either their store brand or their brand name in different size packages. So it's impossible to just say a package cost and compare on that basis. That you have to look at the unit cost for a package of 560 or a package of 300. So again, Access supports this kind of rich interface where you can start to see patterns and differentiation and analyzing your data. And again, the summary ranges from 7 cents per tablet at Costco through 26 cents per tablet for a brand name at Safeway, or 11 cents a tablet for a store brand at Safeway. So that's kind of how this all came about, how it worked, and why I wanted to set it up in the first place. Recently, I was at the store and I noticed I was not the only one walking around with a shopping cart and a shopping list. I had a piece of paper at the time. I noticed that there were store employees also walking around pushing carts, and they had a smartphone in their hand. And what they were doing was looking at that smartphone. There was a shopping list, and picking items from the shelves to put in their carts. And it dawned on me, Safeway, and I'm sure most other stores now offer a similar service. You can go online, order products. Someone in the store picks those products from the shelves, packages them up, and either delivers them to you or puts them in a basket that you can pick up at the front door. And I thought to myself, as I was looking at these employees with their smartphones, I bet I can do that with PowerApps. And I did. We can now look at the PowerApps piece of this hybrid application and see how it works in conjunction with the desktop version. And I will also dive into some of the code involved in creating that PowerApps application. The first thing we're going to look at in video 2 is the use of PowerApps collections. As Access developers, you're familiar with the term. In PowerApps, they're similar but not the same. I think in PowerApps, I prefer to think of them more as in-memory temporary tables. They fill that same role you would use a temporary table for, except that they live only in memory while the session is live. So with that, I'll wrap up today. Look forward to seeing you in part 2 of this series on my shopping list, a hybrid Access and PowerApps application with SQL Azure tables.